Glad to be back, everybody, here. Fireworks in Israel this week after an Israeli politician made a bold and very controversial visit to a holy site sacred to Jews and Muslims. Jerusalem correspondent Daniel Cohen has more.
On Tuesday, centuries-old passions reignited when the newly elected Israeli security minister Itamar Ben-Gvir visited the Temple Mount. Flanked by police, he walked around for less than 15 minutes, stayed on the non-Muslim walking paths, and didn't pray, which is illegal for Jews. Ben-Gvir is part of a growing movement who believe Jews should have greater access to both worship and pray. The Temple Mount is open to all. Muslims and Christians come up here, and yes, also Jews. In a government I'm a member of, there will be no discrimination. Muslim leaders describe Ben-Gvir's presence as a provocation and warned against expanded Jewish presence. The Biden State Department agrees.
This visit has the potential to exacerbate tensions and to provoke violence.
After being sworn in as prime minister, Netanyahu visited the Western Wall Sunday, but did not visit the Temple Mount. Netanyahu says one of the goals of his new government is to bring new Arab Gulf nations, potentially Saudi Arabia, into the Abraham Accords brokered by President Trump and make peace with Arab neighbors.
All right, joining me now, the founder of the World Values Network, Rabbi Shmuley Boteach, also with us, visiting associate professor for the Augustine Institute and author of Restoring Humanity, Dr. Jared Stout. Gentlemen, welcome to you both. And Rabbi, I want to begin with you. Your reaction to Ben-Gvir's visit to the holy site. Give me your reaction, then. What do you think his goal was?
Did you hear what your reporter just said? That he didn't pray, Ben-Gvir didn't pray on the holy, on Temple Mount, the holiest site for Judaism in the world, because it's illegal. I'm laughing because this would be comical if it wasn't tragic. It's illegal for Jews to pray in Israel, in the Jewish state. Israel is not an apartheid state. You cannot discriminate against Jews. We're not here to discriminate against our Arab brothers and sisters, our Muslim brothers and sisters either. The idea that Hamas would threaten to fire rockets on Israel, which they then did, if an Israeli minister simply visits and walks around the holiest site to the Jewish people for 3,000 years. The idea that the Israeli government makes this illegal, come on, that's any American watching this is going to think, there's no way I just heard what I heard, that Jews cannot pray in the Jewish state of Israel. What Ben-Gvir did was what Jews ought to do, visit the Temple Mount, with great peace, with great respect for our Muslim brothers and sisters. When Israel conquered the Temple Mount in the defensive war in 1967, they could have taken complete control over it. Instead, they gave it to the Jordanian Waqf to continue to control. The Jordanian Waqf is deeply anti-Semitic. They're Jew haters. They incite violence constantly, and their authority should finally be removed over the Temple Mount.
Understood. And now I want to pivot to something that Newsmax has been covering extensively since the wee hours of the morning. Dr. Stout, I want to turn to Pope Benedict's funeral during the wee hours of the morning here in the United States. Ceremony was historic, with his successor, Pope Francis, presiding. However, Pope Francis could only bring himself to mention Benedict's name once during the entire funeral mass. Many saw this as a slight and a furtherance of Pope Francis's radicalism. There's no doubt that this current pope is one of the biggest dividers this church has ever had to endure. We know the faith will survive, but does the Catholic Church survive Pope Francis in your view?
Well, absolutely. As Catholics, we believe that Jesus founded the Catholic Church, and that the Petrine ministry, that's the ministry of the Pope, is something that he himself established by saying that he founded the church on the rock of St. Peter. When you look at the whole history of the church, there are many ups and downs. There are good popes, there are bad popes. And the Catholic Church has survived a lot. And when you put it in the big perspective, this is just a bump, not a major chasm.
Okay, all right. Rabbi, you had the honor of meeting Pope Benedict.
Can I jump in here for a second?
Yeah. The Catholic Pope has a tremendous amount of impact on not only Christendom, but also the Jewish community. How does, describe the former Pope's life and what kind of impact he had on you?
Okay, I met Pope Benedict. He was a man of great shyness, gentility, humility, and incredible warmth. I actually gave him a watch that had two faces on it. And I said, Your Holiness, one is for Jerusalem, one is for Rome, to show you the eternal brotherhood of the Catholic and Jewish people. Some people told me they later saw him wear it. I can't confirm that. He was one of the most underestimated popes. I remember being on New York radio as a host, and I'm Jewish, and a Catholic's attacking Benedict at the time when he was pontiff, and a rabbi defending him. He was a phenomenal friend to the Jewish community. All the rapprochement that took place between world Jewry and the state of Israel and the Catholic Church during the time of John Paul II would have been impossible without Benedict. John Paul was a great, St. John Paul was a very charismatic leader, but he wasn't a theologian. It was Joseph Ratzinger, Cardinal Joseph Ratzinger, Benedict XVI, who wrote the position papers that allowed for theological bridges to be built between the Jews and the Catholics. Because remember, for a long time, the Catholic Church kind of embraced replacement theology, that the church had replaced the Jews, grafted onto the seed of Abraham. Benedict rejected that. He was a phenomenal friend of the Jewish community. He has been treated shabbily, in my opinion, and it's time for the Catholic Church to embrace him for the great mind and the amazing heart he was. He knew he was part of the Hitler Youth, forced into it as a child, and he knew he had to make closer relationships with the Jewish community, and he did so. And we are extremely grateful.
And I only got about a minute left. And Dr. Stout, I want to bring you in this last question. Pope Benedict reportedly did not want Joe Biden, a pro-abortionist and, in my opinion, a fake Catholic, at his funeral. The White House confirmed that Biden was not invited. Could Pope Benedict's staunch traditional Christian stance be why so many in the left-wing press here in the United States simply refuse to cover his passing?
Well, I definitely think that Benedict has been caricatured as some kind of enemy, but I agree completely with the characterization of him as being very gentle and humble. I think it's clear that he would not want, like you said, a kind of fake Catholic at his funeral causing scandal. And so Pope Benedict has always been about the primacy of God, even in politics, that politics, even though it has its own natural standing, is ultimately ordered towards God and has to be ordered rightly in justice. And so he would see that the problematic elements of the secular West pushing God out and really distorting politics and justice, as we see happening with the Democratic Party in the United States.
Thank you both, Jared Stout and Rabbi Shmuley Boteach. Always appreciate the visit, guys. Thank you. The Russians are suddenly calling for a